My name is Susan Gott, and I work with glass, specifically cast glass and large-scale sculptural glass. I think I was born an artist. Being an artist has allowed me to travel, and I find inspiration in my travels and studying ancient cultures. And there's a lot of different layers to my work. So some of my work is more figurative, and there are spiritual elements in it, but some of them might even be a bit whimsical. And then some of the other forms, particularly some of the round forms that I've made, the spirals, are my reinterpretation of maybe something much more ancient and looking at it in a contemporary way. There's been some times in my life where I've either lost people in my life or I've lost touch with people in my life. And I found that making a piece in glass about them or about trying to be in touch with them again reconnected me with them, even though I didn't speak to them again. So it became a spiritual outlet, like a conduit to the other side. And you'll often find the concentric rings stamped into the glass, which when the light shows on it, it creates these ripple effects and optics in the glass that speak to me about spirit, like nothing else does. The quality of light presents itself as that connection to spirit. So it's all of those things. I start with drawings, and then I carve primarily in a styrofoam form, and then we pack sand around that form. It's a hard mold, and I can manipulate the mold, carve into the mold, lay the color into it, pour the hot glass into the mold, and put it away, and anneal it or cool it for anywhere from 48 hours to maybe a couple of weeks. The cooling process is controlled by a computer. Then after the cooling, the pieces come out of the mold. The mold is destroyed, so it's a one-time use mold. And we grind and polish the surfaces using different diamond tools, wet belt sanders, grinders. So there's a lot of finish work that you don't see behind the scenes, the grinding, polishing of the glass, especially with the cast glass, because it opens up the windows so you can see into the piece. There is definitely a lot of excitement in the making of the glass, the pouring, the intensity, the heat, the color. But it is very rewarding when you pull it out weeks later and you hold it up to the light and you see the colors and you see that everything worked. But then there's kind of another phase, is after you grind and polish it and you open up these different facets. That brings a whole nother element to the piece. Generally, I say it takes about 6 to 8 weeks from the planning phase, the creation of the mold. The casting part may not take long. That might be just 15 or 20 minutes to cast it, but you have all these steps along the way before and after. There's a lot of hours that go into a big piece. I built my own studio back in the early 90s. I bought this property because it had commercial zoning and I knew I could build a studio on it. So we run approximately 600-pound furnace and about 7 annealers. So it's woman-owned, built, run, of course, with the help of a lot of people along the way, but I laid it out from the very beginning on a piece of graph paper. I knew where I wanted the furnace. I knew how much gas I needed. I knew how much electrical we needed to bring in. It's all me. One of them is called Calendar Wheel, and it is actually inspired by my trips to Mexico. It's a cast glass disc, round, and it has actually the interpretation of the glyphs, the Mayan calendar carved around the outside edges with moons and stars and spirals through the piece. But it's inspired by going to the Mayan ruins. In the ball courts, they would have these giant stone discs, and they would play a game where they would try to get the rubber ball through that hole. And to me, that always, it became like this interesting, iconic metaphor that they would do it in stone. And it wasn't just a ball game for them. It was about the transition of Venus and the stars and moons and the Pleiades, because they were so in tune with astrological imagery and following it. So I thought it was a wonderful metaphor to translate it into glass. So I think that piece is especially important going down to Guatemala, because perhaps somebody else might see that in it what I see in it.